She'd never seen a human up close. Not until that day. Princess Kaelith of the Ashari Dominion stood in the royal arena, cold wind biting her lavender skin as her golden eyes locked on the figure across the field. The air buzzed with tension. The vast amphitheater roared with thousands of voices from across the galaxy, nobles, soldiers, delegates, all eager to witness the impossible. Kaelith tightened her grip on her twin daggers. Her ceremonial armor shimmered, but it was more for show than protection. She didn't need heavy plating. She was the Dominion's fiercest warrior, trained from childhood to become a living weapon. No one, not even her own people, had ever bested her in single combat. Which is exactly why the elders forced her into this. Marriage, they had said, is a political necessity. The human confederation has power we cannot afford to ignore. She had scoffed. Then marry a diplomat. It must be you. Their ambassador has named their champion. Let him come. I will kill him. But then came the twist. Death was not the outcome. This was to be a binding trial. If the human defeated her, she would be bound to him not just in treaty, but by sacred vow. She had laughed in their faces. Now, here she was. And across from her stood the reason she'd stopped laughing. He didn't look like a champion. Not at first. He had no ornate armor, no gleaming blade. Just a dull, half-scratched combat suit and a blunt-looking sword strapped to his back. His face was unreadable, scarred, square-jawed, and strangely calm. Name, she called out. He stepped forward, voice gruff. Sergeant Elias Voss. Earthborn. Marine Corps. He bowed slightly. Not mockingly. Respectfully. That alone made her hesitate. A horn blared. The duel had begun. Kaelith moved first, like lightning. She blurred across the sand, her daggers slashing in a flurry designed to disarm, confuse, end it before it began. Elias didn't move. Until he did. He ducked the first blade, caught the second with a forearm guard, then stepped into her flurry. Not away. That was her first warning. He wasn't trying to dodge her. He was reading her. And then came the counter. A sweep that nearly crushed her knee. A jab to her solar plexus that sent her skidding back. Her breath caught. No one ever touched her. The crowd gasped. Even the elders stirred in their skybox. Kaelith stood, panting. Elias didn't press. He waited. She charged again. Different angle. Different rhythm. But he matched her like a mirror. He fought like he'd studied her for years. Because he had. Her people broadcast their matches across the galaxy. Every one a spectacle. Every technique on display. He used it all against her. She realized the trap too late. Halfway through the match, the tempo shifted. He stopped countering. Started pressuring. Her stamina, superior to most, began to crack. He didn't have alien reflexes, didn't use telekinetic tech like some elite warriors. But what he had was worse. He had discipline. He never showed off. Never lost control. He was a war machine trained for survival, not spectacle. And that made him dangerous. He caught her wrist. Disarmed one dagger. Then the second. She rolled away, scraped up her arm, came up with sand in her mouth. Still, she wouldn't yield. She couldn't. She charged one final time. He didn't block. He stepped inside her guard. And then, he stopped. His blade hovered at her neck. Inches from drawing blood. She was frozen. Every instinct screamed to break free. But she knew. She had lost. Elias met her gaze. I don't want your throne, he said. Or your body. Or your vow. I just want peace. Something strange stirred inside her. What kind of warrior wins a battle, and then throws the prize away? The elders descended in silence. Witnesses approached. The ceremony of binding was prepared. Kaelith stood motionless. Elias bowed once more. I won't force anything on you. Even if I could. And then he walked away. That should have been the end of it. But it wasn't. The rules were clear. If he bested her, she must obey. A sacred oath enforced by Dominion law and ancestral memory. If she refused, her house would be stripped of title. Her people exiled. The alliance would collapse. So she obeyed. On the surface. But inside, she burned. The wedding took place the next cycle. Swift. Efficient. Cold. She said the words. She wore the crest. She did not look him in the eyes. He didn't touch her. Didn't ask for a kiss. He simply offered his hand. She took it with ice in her veins. They moved into a shared quarters aboard the Dominion flagship, the Ascendant Star. For the next 3 cycles, they barely spoke. Kaelith trained obsessively. She spent nights sharpening her blades, shadowboxing in 0G, studying Earth military files. Preparing. Because she would challenge him again. But the law said she couldn't unless he agreed. And he didn't. He refused. I didn't fight you to own you, he said, when she finally snapped. I fought because they made me. Just like they made you. That confused her more than it should have. She started watching him. Not as an enemy, but as a puzzle. Why didn't he revel in victory? Why did he eat alone? Why did he stare at Earth's hologlobe projection like he missed something? One night, she heard him scream. A nightmare. War flashback, maybe. He was drenched in sweat, gripping the edge of his bunk like he'd fall into the void. She didn't comfort him. But she didn't leave either. The next day, she asked, "How many did you lose?" He looked at her. Not surprised. Too many. That was the first real thing he said to her. The ice cracked. Just a little. Weeks passed. The Galactic Council summoned them for joint diplomacy. They appeared as a unit, symbolic, nothing more. But as they walked side by side, Kaelith noticed how Elias always positioned himself between her and potential threats. Old habit, maybe. Maybe not. She began to test him. Not in combat, but in words. In silence. In watching what he did when no one watched. She saw him rebuild a refugee purifier by hand on a ruined world. She saw him give his share of water rations to an alien child. She saw him kneel beside a dying enemy soldier, and say a prayer in a tongue she didn't understand. Each moment chipped away at the wall she'd built. Still, she didn't trust it. Couldn't. Until the raid. A rogue faction of Dominion purists attacked a neutral station. Kaelith and Elias were caught in the chaos. Cut off from their guards. Surrounded by assassins in a maintenance bay. Kaelith fought like a storm. But there were too many. She took a blade to the side. Dropped to one knee. And Elias snapped. He tore through them like a ghost. No hesitation. No mercy. Pure war fury. When it was over, he was drenched in blood, shaking, but alive. And so was she. She looked up at him, blinking past pain. Why? He stared down at her, wild-eyed. Because I chose you. Not as a prize. As a partner. And I protect what I choose. That was the moment. Not the duel. Not the ceremony. That was the moment she began to fall. But falling for a human, that was something no Ashari princess had ever done. And what came next would test both their worlds. Because someone, somewhere, wanted this alliance destroyed. And they were willing to kill for it. It started with whispers. A strange report here. A missing transport there. Then came the coded intercepts, partial transmissions with just one word clear: severance. Elias stood over the data terminal aboard the Ascendant Star, frowning at the decrypted fragments. Kaelith leaned against the far bulkhead, arms crossed, eyes narrowed. It's not just pirates. Agreed, he muttered, jaw tight. These hits are too precise. High-value targets, minimal witnesses, 0 survivors. And always near Dominion Confederation border zones. The implications settled between them like smoke. Someone wanted war. And they were good at making it look like an accident. Over the next days, the attacks escalated. Entire science outposts vanished. Trade convoys vaporized in deep space. Then came the worst hit. A diplomatic envoy carrying both Ashari and human representatives was blown apart near the neutral moon of Tralan 4. Kaelith and Elias were recalled for emergency session. But en route, their shuttle was ambushed. Missiles screamed in from nowhere, no warning, no hailing. Elias shouted, "Countermeasures," as he seized the manual override. Kaelith grabbed a rail and pulled herself beside him, voice calm but cold. Trajectory vectors. 4 ships. No ID signature. Cloaked drives. He didn't answer. Just flew like hell. The shuttle bucked hard, one engine flaring. Elias twisted the yoke into a roll, flinging them toward a derelict asteroid cluster. Debris smashed off their hull, but the larger rocks blocked line of sight. For a moment, the missiles lost lock. Kaelith slid into the gunner seat. "I've got a pulse flare. 1 shot." He trusted her aim. She fired. The explosion sent false signals across the enemy scanners. A moment of chaos. Just enough time. Elias slammed the jump drive. And they vanished. They reappeared hours later in a dead zone, an old, abandoned mining station orbiting a forgotten dwarf planet. Systems failing. Shields low. Alone. Kaelith sank into the chair, breathing hard. Elias didn't speak for a long time. Finally, she broke the silence. "They didn't want to intercept us. They wanted us dead." He nodded slowly. "They don't want peace. They want martyrdom. A crisis. Something to light the match." Her eyes narrowed. "And we're the spark." A shared look passed between them. That same clarity from the arena resurfaced, no masks, no political weight. Just truth. "We need to find out who's behind this," she said. "Before the council tears itself apart." "Agreed," Elias said. "But we're grounded. No comms, no backup. No one knows we survived." "Then we stop waiting to be rescued," she said. "We hunt." The mining station was ancient. Half its corridors had collapsed. But it still had a backup AI core, primitive, slow, but enough to store local records. Kaelith used her personal blade to splice into the maintenance access. "Are you really stabbing the computer?" Elias asked. "It's Dominion tech. It respects force," she muttered. Within minutes, she pulled raw sensor logs, unauthorized landings, unscheduled energy spikes, encrypted message caches. One stood out. A transmission sent in 2 languages, Dominion trade script and Earth ciphers. A joint betrayal. She stared at it. Then at him. "We've been played." They tracked the signal back to a rogue asteroid colony known as Serad Prime, a place so filthy and corrupt that even bounty hunters avoided it. Smugglers. Mercenaries. Runaways. If secrets had a home, this was it. Kaelith disguised herself in off-world scavenger gear, dagger strapped beneath her cloak. Elias wore a low-grade mech suit, dented and charred, salvage tech common among fringe warriors. They walked through the station's core like ghosts. Every species was here. Grax with cybernetic jaws. Thin-stalked Trivan diplomats. Mutated humans with plasma tattoos. The air stank of rust, ozone, and danger. They stopped at a weapons dealer with a mechanical eye. "We're looking for someone called the Severance Broker," Elias said flatly. The dealer laughed, mouth too wide. "You got a death wish, soldier boy?" Kaelith flicked a dagger into the table. "We're not asking again." The laughter died. The lead took them into the lower docks. Beneath the reactor core. Past the broken airlocks where sound didn't echo. They found him. Not what either of them expected. The Severance Broker was Ishari. An outcast, face tattooed in excommunication runes, voice laced with venom. "You shouldn't be here, princess." Kaelith's lip curled. "You're a traitor to your kind." "I'm a realist," the broker said. "Your throne sold you to peace. I offer you truth. Dominion must remain pure. And Earth?" Elias asked. "Your people are weak. You talk peace but arm your borders. You pretend to love but always conquer." Kaelith's blade was at his throat in seconds. "Give me a reason." But Elias raised a hand. "Let him talk. We need more than a body. We need proof." The broker smiled. "There's a summit in 3 cycles. A false flag attack will occur there. Enough to make your people turn on each other." "Where?" He didn't answer. Kaelith pressed harder. "Tell us, or I break your spine." "Break it," he hissed. "Others will rise. It's already begun." Elias made a choice. He stunned the broker unconscious and pulled the neural chip from behind his ear. Kaelith raised a brow. Brutal. Efficient, Elias replied. They fled the station under heavy pursuit. But this time, Kaelith flew. She cut through black holes of traffic and outsmarted every pirate tail. When they jumped back into Dominion space, the neural chip revealed it all. A planned assassination at the Unity Summit. A bomb set beneath the Joint Council Hall. Timed to detonate just as Kaelith and Elias took the stage together. Their deaths would trigger the war. Kaelith stared at the holographic layout. They don't just want us dead. They want us to be the reason everything burns. Elias stepped forward. Then we use it. We make them believe it worked. And when they come to celebrate, we cut off the head, Kaelith finished. They exchanged a look. No more pretending. They were bound by more than law now. They were warriors. Partners. And war was coming. The Unity Summit glimmered like a jewel in orbit over the ocean moon of Selexia, a sprawling station designed to inspire trust, diplomacy, and unity across 1,000 species. But today, it was a target. Kaelith and Elias stood at the edge of the main concourse, dressed not in ceremonial robes or dress uniforms, but in dark infiltration suits with adaptive camo. Their presence was classified. To everyone else, they were dead victims of the shuttle ambush. The bait was set. The plan was simple: let the conspirators believe their plot had succeeded. Let them surface. Then strike. But plans rarely survive contact with reality. Kaelith adjusted the comms implant tucked behind her ear. Sector 7 secure. No unusual movements. You. Elias's voice came through, low and focused. I've got 2 cloaked figures moving toward maintenance tunnels beneath the central council dome. Carrying a container. Shielded. That's our bomb. Kaelith didn't hesitate. Intercept. Negative. Let them plant it. We need them to believe they succeeded. That's the only way we'll draw out the handler. Kaelith moved. Silent as a whisper. Her body language had changed, more efficient, sharper. Less pride. More purpose. Elias noticed. And he trusted it. They rendezvoused in a lower corridor, just as the bomb was being armed. The 2 saboteurs, one human, one Ishari, spoke in hushed code. Timer set. 2 minutes after keynote begins. No survivors. Kaelith and Elias watched from the shadows. Then Kaelith whispered, now. She moved first, disarming, disabling. Her dagger sank into the Ishari saboteur's arm before he could reach for a blaster. Elias dropped the human with a shoulder slam that knocked the wind from his lungs. No killing, Kaelith said, breath tight. We need answers. The saboteurs laughed, blooded, bruised, unafraid. You think this ends with us, the human spat. We're just the fuse. The charge is already burning. They activated self-cyanide implants. Too fast to stop. Kaelith cursed under her breath. Elias moved to the bomb. I can disable it. Alone. I built worse. Kaelith watched him work, sweat beading at his brow as he cut into the casing, bypassed the plasma core, and disengaged the quantum destabilizer. Beads of light fizzled and died. Bomb deactivated. Kaelith let out a slow breath. Now we wait. They staged their deaths perfectly. News broadcasts across the Dominion and Confederation declared Kaelith and Elias honored casualties. Their sacrifices became rallying cries for diplomacy. The summit continued, everyone thinking the threat was gone. Except one. He stepped into the council dome just before the final address. Lord Varas. High Advisor to the Dominion. Respected voice on the intergalactic peace accords. And secretly, the architect of the severance movement. Kaelith watched from the overhead lattice as Varas took his seat, face unreadable. Elias muttered, "This the guy?" Kaelith's voice was ice. "That's him." They had recordings. Intercepts. Stolen schematics. Enough to convict 10 men. But not him. Not yet. They needed a confession. So they did something reckless. They stepped onto the stage. Gasps rippled across the audience. Elias took the MIC reports of our deaths were exaggerated. Kaelith stood tall beside him, eyes fixed on Varas. You all gathered here for peace, she said. But peace has enemies. And today, one of them sits among you. Varas stood slowly. This is a violation of council protocol. No, Elias interrupted. This is justice. Security closed in, unsure who to protect. Varas's mask cracked. He glanced to the exits. Then sneered. Do you think killing me will stop anything? Kaelith stepped closer. Killing you would be too easy. We want everyone to see what you are. She played the transmission. A projection flickered above them, Varas's own voice, ordering the attack on the envoy, instructing the severance agents to ensure Kaelith and Elias died together. Chaos erupted. Varas lunged for a concealed blaster. Too late. Kaelith moved like fire. Her boot slammed into his wrist, sending the weapon clattering. Elias pinned him to the floor. Council guards surged forward. This time, to arrest him. The illusion shattered. The summit didn't end with applause. It ended in silence. 1,000 voices holding their breath as two warriors, once enemies, stood together, alive, victorious, unbroken. And something shifted. Kaelith saw it in the way the Ashari nobles looked at Elias. And Elias saw it in the way Kaelith looked at him. Later, in the quiet of their quarters, Kaelith sat beside him. The room was dark. A single star pulsed beyond the viewport. She spoke first. You didn't have to fight. Not after the arena. You could have walked away. Elias leaned back, arms folded. Neither did you. She turned to him. I used to think obedience was weakness. Submission, shame. He waited. But I was wrong. She looked away. Obedience means trust. Choosing to follow someone worthy. Elias didn't speak. He just reached out. This time, she took his hand without hesitation. I obey, she whispered. Not because I have to. But because I want to. It wasn't just a vow. It was a beginning. The galaxy held its breath. After the Unity Summit's near destruction, the web of conspiracies unraveling, and the public unmasking of Lord Varas, the Dominion and Confederation teetered on the edge. Not of war, but of something rarer. Understanding. Kaelith and Elias found themselves at the center of it all. The council offered them titles, honors, command. But they didn't care for ceremony. Instead, they asked for something else. Time. They returned to Earth first. Kaelith had never set foot on a blue planet before. Her boots touched down on soft soil in the northern woodlands of Canada, where Elias had grown up. The trees swayed gently. The air was clean, crisp. She didn't speak at first. Just breathed it in. Smells like honesty, she said eventually. Elias laughed. Smells like pine and mosquitoes. They built a small cabin on the edge of a lake, with solar panels and a view of the stars. Kaelith trained in the mornings. Elias fished, badly. They argued over breakfast, made peace by dinner. Every now and then, messages arrived. Requests. Missions. Diplomatic offers. They turned most of them down. But one they accepted. It was a school. Built near the old warfront of Andraxis 6, once a battlefield, now a neutral education zone. A place where younglings from dozens of species could learn together. No more propaganda. No more hatred passed down like a disease. Kaelith taught defense and honor. Elias taught history and survival. Sometimes, they taught side by side. The students adored them. A human girl once asked, "Are you really married?" Kaelith blinked. "Legally, yes. But do you love each other?" Elias smiled. "That's more complicated." Kaelith looked at him. "No," she said. "It's simple." And then she kissed him. The classroom exploded in giggles and cheers. Peace didn't come all at once. It never does. There were more threats. New factions. Some who called Elias a traitor. Others who said Kaelith had shamed her bloodline. They didn't care. Because the war was no longer out there. It was inside, between pride and humility, pain and forgiveness, duty and choice. And they had won. One night, years later, Kaelith stood under the stars outside their cabin, looking up at the sky. Her hair had grown longer. Her scars had faded. But her eyes were still sharp. Elias joined her, wrapping a blanket over her shoulders. Still restless, he asked. She nodded. Just thinking. About obedience. He raised a brow. I was taught to obey only strength. To bow to no one unless defeated. But you didn't conquer me. You saw me. Fought me. Then freed me. He was quiet. And in that freedom, she continued, I chose you. That choice made me stronger than any battle ever did. He smiled. That was the point. She turned to him. Will you obey me, then? He grinned. Always. They laughed together, and the stars above shimmered like fireflies. The galaxy didn't become perfect. But it became better. One alliance at a time. One conversation. One difficult truth spoken instead of hidden. And somewhere, far from thrones and battles, a princess and a soldier proved that obedience was not submission. It was trust. It was love. And sometimes, the fiercest warriors are the ones who dare to lay down their weapons and reach out instead.